Welcome to this week's edition of the Maza's Musings podcast. I'm Chris Maza, and this week I am flying solo. I am going to be talking with you in a little bit of a pivot this week about James Earl Jones and obviously the indelible mark that he left on entertainment, specifically movie making, though he did have quite the career on stage as well. The man won Tonys. He also, on the small screen, he won Emmys. And of course, he had a part in some of the most iconic roles and honestly iconic moments in cinematic history, some that are just referenced time and time again to this day. And I'm not going to go into a whole biography about him. What we really want to do is talk about, some of the things that were really impressive and made impressions on me about the performances that he had in life. So we're going to get into that. We'll also do a quick Maz's Mickey Minute. And also, I have to make a little bit of a correction. I was listening to the Eye on Foxborough podcast with Karen Guregian and Tommy Curran from NBC Sports Boston. And I realized right off the top, they mentioned something that, well, I pronounced Karen's name incorrectly in our last podcast. Now, I had always pronounced it Guregian, but then I had heard some people pronounce it Guregian. And so I thought, well, I must be pronouncing it wrong. So I called her Karen Guregian, and her being gracious and probably having had her name mispronounced time and time again, never corrected me. So I want to apologize to Karen for mispronouncing her name. As someone who has had all kinds of trouble getting people to pronounce my name, people even tend to like to throw extra letters and syllables in there. I want to apologize. I understand exactly what that's like. And, going forward, it's Karen Guregian. It's a hard G. So with that said, I also want to thank everybody who has been listening, who has been subscribing or leaving reviews. I really want to thank everybody who has gotten on to Good Pods. We've gotten some good response there, and I really encourage people to use that. It's a great service in terms of if you're looking to give feedback on individual episodes, or if you're looking for new content. It's actually a really great formula for that. I mean, the interface that they have is really designed for exploration and discovery. So if you're looking to find some new podcasts and get some feedback from people on specific episodes and such, it's definitely one to check out. You can always connect with us via social media. There's the Maza's Musings podcast Facebook page. We also have our Instagram and Threads account, Maza's Musings Pod. You can also go to mazasmusings.wordpress.com, which has information on past episodes, a little bit more about what this podcast is all about. You can also use our contact information there. We've even got a form set up so that you can email us directly, or you can just email me directly at mazasmusings@gmail.com. And now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about one of the great voices in entertainment. And that's James Earl Jones. And here we go.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra.
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
And here we go!
All right, so for this week's Maza's Mickey Minute, we have a few quick items that have come out recently, one regarding movies and another regarding Disney World. So, first off, Disney and Pixar announced that Inside Out 2 will begin streaming on Disney Plus on September 25th. Now, this is especially interesting given that Disney is also rolling out a new promo for Disney Plus to try and push subscribers during the fall season. Now, Inside Out 2, of course, is the highest grossing animated film of all time and the fastest animated film to reach $1 billion globally. So it's also now in the top 10 highest grossing films at the global box office in history. So obviously big news for Disney and Pixar fans there. Now, for those fans of the Cosmic Rewind, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Hollywood Studios, and especially those who are a fan of riding that ride and getting the song September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, well, this is some great news for you. On Saturday, September 21st, guests riding Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind will get September as their onboard song. This one-day only offering also took place in 2023, so this is something that they're bringing back. So anybody who has listened to the previous episode that I don't remember what episode it was exactly, but in a previous episode, Eileen and I were talking about riding Cosmic Rewind and riding it for the first time and getting September and being very excited about that. And one of the reasons we were excited about that was because Emily from We Do Travel Right had told us that that is the best song to get. And now we've only ridden the ride twice, and we've gotten September the first time, and we had one way or another the second time. And between those two, they were both fun with the ride, but still, September, I think, just has a whole different vibe to it. So if you're going to be at Hollywood Studios on Saturday, September 21st, you can look forward to hearing September. And you know what else you can look forward to is booking your next trip through We Do Travel Right, because We Do Travel Right has that concierge level service that lets you just get back to enjoying a vacation and not worrying about all the stress of planning. Now, Emily and her team specialize in all the different aspects of planning a trip, including the dining team. They also put together seminars and videos and all kinds of things that help you understand how to get the most out of your trip as well. So while they're taking care of all of this stuff, you know what you're not doing? You're not paying anything extra, because We Do Travel Right is paid directly by Disney, or if you want to go to Universal Studios or on a cruise or to an all-inclusive, whatever it is, those companies pay We Do Travel Right directly. So you don't have to worry about any extra money or any extra hassle. It seems like a no-brainer to me. So if you are interested in getting your next magical trip started today, you can visit WeDoTravelRight.com/Maza. That's WeDoTravelRight.com/Maza, and they'll take care of the rest for you. And tell them Chris Maza sent you.
Now I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
So, like I said off the top, my goal here isn't really to rehash the career of James Earl Jones. It's really to celebrate and highlight those great roles that he had and kind of show how he was able to leverage such a great instrument that he had in his voice and his talent as an actor to really ascend to another level and to bring those moments to these iconic, kind of spaces that they are now. And before we get into that, I think it's important to note that James Earl Jones did not speak when he was a young child because of a severe speech impediment. I'm developing my own apparently as we're speaking. But yeah, he had this severe impediment that he credited an English teacher with drawing him out of, in terms of like his silence, drew him out of the silence and really encouraged him to use his voice because he was such a thoughtful young kid who wrote some tremendous poetry. And this professor really, not professor, this teacher really kind of said to him, this is great that it's here on paper, but you have an opportunity to give it a voice. And the fact that he was able to overcome that speech impediment to the point where he reached this pinnacle, really, of using that voice that he was so afraid to use to such a great degree is really a great story as far as I'm concerned. And one thing that I've found while I was researching this is I'm equally, if not more, impressed with him now because I realized that he didn't always have the most amount of screen time, but he made the most of it. He elevated scenes to these iconic levels just by leveraging his voice and his talent. Uh, as an example, obviously, he was the voice of Mufasa in The Lion King. And Mufasa is on screen for 11 minutes and 43 seconds. That's just over 13% of the movie. Now, Timon has more screen time than Mufasa, and Pumbaa is just a shade under, like 30 seconds less than Mufasa in this movie. So, I mean, obviously, they're all major characters, but when you talk about Mufasa and the kind of strength that character has and the influence that character has in this movie, you would think that would be a larger chunk, but it's not. And it's largely because James Earl Jones was able to make this character transcend with his voice and with his delivery, that we remember it as much as we do. Darth Vader is maybe his most recognizable among, across the board. You could have non-Star Wars fans who are just like, oh, that's Darth Vader, or hear, the voice and know that that's Darth Vader without ever having actually seen a Star Wars film. Darth Vader in the entire original trilogy has 34 minutes of screen time. 34 minutes. In the original Star Wars, now known as A New Hope, he had 8 minutes and 6 seconds of screen time in that entire movie. And in Field of Dreams, he does have more screen time. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but the People Will Come speech at the end, one of the iconic moments of that movie that really defines the movie, that speech makes up 2.5% of the movie. It's 2.5% of the movie. And it's what people gravitate towards in that movie, with all of the other elements, the travel, the soul searching, everything that's going on. it's that speech that really is something that captivates fans, and it's such a small percentage of the movie overall. So I just bring this up to show how, he can have such an impact on a product with his performance without demanding a huge chunk of your screen time. He demands your attention without having to be in front of you for the majority of a movie. And I think that speaks a lot to his talent. So I'm going to go over a few of like the most iconic things that he has done. And of course, the first one is that people will come speech, which if you're a baseball fan and you hear this, and you're not, even if you're not a baseball fan, how can you hear this and not feel a certain way? I mean, as a baseball fan, I hear this and I'm just like, man, how can you not be poetic about baseball? It's really amazing.
Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have and peace they like. And they'll walk out to the bleachers and sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces. People will come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
How can you just not feel a certain kind of way after listening to that? It's just so eloquent. The delivery is perfect. And I have to admit, getting a little misty. Now, obviously, I kind of cobbled together and cut out some spots there for time, so it wasn't the full scene, but I really think that is just one of the most well-delivered monologues in cinematic history. It really is. Now, going in a completely different direction is obviously Star Wars. And in this particular instance, The Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, Darth Vader revealing that he is Luke Skywalker's father at the time was like one of the great what moments, of all time. And you listen to James Earl Jones's delivery of this, and you can tell that there is layers to the performance. You can tell that what he's doing is he is layering various emotions that Darth Vader and underneath Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is feeling. And I think it's done in a really amazing way. It's even more amazing to me that James Earl Jones did not put his name on Darth Vader in the first two movies because he attributed himself to sound effects. But when you listen to this, it's just like, man, this is so much more than sound effects.
Luke, you do not yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. I'll never join you! If you only knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No. I am your father. No. It's not true. That's impossible! Search your feelings. You know it to be true. No! No! Luke, you can destroy the Emperor. He has foreseen this. It is your destiny. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
I mean, really, this is such a complex performance. You can tell now, especially we kind of have the benefit of some hindsight now, having seen the full story and everything, but you kind of really see the father in Anakin Skywalker coming forward. He's doing everything possible not to kill Luke. I mean, he just cut his hand off. Anyway, and at first blush, it's just like, well, yeah, because he said that he was going to deliver him to the Emperor. The Emperor saw Luke Skywalker as a threat. And it was Darth Vader who convinced him in the first place, hey, this guy might not be a bad guy to have around if we can, turn him. So all of this is kind of like that struggle between Darth Vader and Anakin that we're seeing play out in real time, where he's trying not to betray the Emperor, but at the same time not betray Anakin by killing his son. So I thought, I mean, yes, we have the benefit of some hindsight, but I still think that was really a great and really complex and very strong performance. And of course, there are a few different things that we could bring up, regarding the Lion King. I'm just going to, have one quick one here, just to accentuate. In this one, I feel like he has this really great, the paternal dynamic is really strong. I really enjoyed how he maintains this persona of strength while still being caring. And I think that this scene, really kind of accentuates that.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Wow.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
And this'll all be mine?
Everything.
Everything the light touches.
So it's one of those interesting conversations because he's trying to convey something that's very strong and very important, but also have a softer hand in it. He's trying to talk about his own mortality to his young son, who maybe doesn't quite get it yet. But I think that they do a great job, and James Earl Jones specifically did a great job of, again, balancing some different elements of a character and putting them all together in a complex way. So there are a couple of other times where, you really think about somebody who has this big booming voice like James Earl Jones did. And I think I've already kind of illustrated how he can manipulate that. But there were some real times when he somehow finds a way to still evoke strong emotion, which I think would be difficult for some other people with that kind of strong, deep voice. One of the things, and it's another Star Wars example, is when Luke surrenders himself to Darth Vader. And they have this conversation before Darth Vader brings Luke to the Emperor. And I think that it's really kind of telling. You can see again, and of course, you can't see any of this because Darth Vader's wearing a mask. So, this internal struggle, these emotions have to come through in the performance of the voice actor. And I think that, again, James Earl Jones does a tremendous job of illustrating this emotion that I think would be hard for some other people with that kind of vocal range that he did.
I see you have constructed a new lightsaber. Your skills are complete. Indeed, you are powerful, as the Emperor has foreseen.
Come with me.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do. You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
I will not turn, and you'll be forced to kill me.
If that is your destiny.
Search your feelings, Father. You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
It is too late for me, son. The Emperor will show you the true nature of the Force. He is your master now.
So we once again get this struggle, and you can really feel some heartbreaking dynamics here. The more and more he dives into this, and the closer he comes to, bringing his son to the Emperor, the heavier the implications of it feel to him. And the doubt is creeping in. The doubt, the guilt, the sorrow, just thinking about, you think about everything that he's thinking about what he's missed in life, how it's come to this and what he has to do now. I think that, again, he's doing a masterful job of conveying that. It's every time that I listen to this stuff, and I had to listen to this stuff a few times through while I was preparing the sound clips for this episode, and I become more and more amazed every time. I hear a little bit something different that I'm just like, wow, there are these subtleties to his delivery that are really amazing. And I think another one of those that I was talking about with, like, he kind of like in the first Lion King clip that I played, where he's got to teach a lesson. This one, I think, displays the whole range of emotions. He's angry. He's upset. He's he talks about how scared he was. Then there's moments of joy. This is really a great example of the full range that James Earl Jones could offer.
Zazu, take Nala home. I've got to teach my son a lesson. Simba! Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
I know.
You could have been killed. You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
I was just trying to be brave like you.
I'm only brave when I have to be. Simba, being brave doesn't mean you go looking for trouble.
But you're not scared of anything.
I was today.
You were?
Yes. I thought I might lose you.
Oh. I guess even kings get scared, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what?
What?
I think those hyenas were even scared.
'Cause nobody messes with your dad. Come here, you.
Oh, no! Come here.
Wow. I really love that for all the reasons that I mentioned before. It's showing such a range of emotion in such a way that really encapsulates, in a lot of ways, what being a father is like. It's hard to put into words, but it's really amazing the way that he was able to bring all of these elements together and understand what this character is going through. And again, cast it out in such a way that has complexity, and the shifts from one emotion to another are subtle, really the way that they tend to be in real life. So, anyway, we've done some heavy stuff, and I really want to get into something that I think is a little bit fun, a little bit funny. Now, one thing that I'll say is I've gained appreciation for the character of Darth Vader because, on top of everything else, the guy's not above a little bit of snark. And this is one of those things that I think that James Earl Jones does a great job with. Now, obviously, the first time that we see this is fairly early in Star Wars, in the original, when he decides to choke out the Imperial officer who's basically taunting him in front of his coworkers. So he starts taunting the guy, and Darth Vader's just like, yeah, I've had enough of this.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Enough of this. Vader, release him.
As you wish.
Like, even the "as you wish" at the end of that, there's just this, dude, yeah, you're not really worth it. I just love that little subtlety to a lot of these performances. And really, Darth Vader kind of is the king of snark in a lot of ways. I mean, Captain Nita, after losing the Millennium Falcon in Empire Strikes Back, goes to apologize to Vader. Well, and I mean, Vader's got this to say.
Apology accepted, Captain Nita.
Yeah, apology accepted after he just choked him to death. I mean, it's these little moments that kind of fill out the Darth Vader character in terms of like the evil aspect of the Darth Vader character. And yeah, and Vader's also not afraid to speak his mind when it comes to who he thinks is competent and who's not.
The rebels are alerted to our presence. Admiral Oswald came out of light speed too close to the system.
He felt surprised, was wiser.
He is as clumsy as he is stupid.
Clumsy as he is stupid. If there is less of a ringing endorsement for somebody, I think that might be it. So a lot of these do come in Empire Strikes Back. And this one is honestly one of my favorites. It's when the doors open and Vader is on the other side of the dining room table, and it's clear that the rebels, that Han Solo and Princess Leia and Chewie are being captured, and he blocks a handful of blaster bolts from Han Solo, disarms him, and then just comes up with this quick-witted.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Just like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to add some insult to injury here. He also has got a line for Lando Calrissian when Lando finally decides to speak up too little too late.
That was never a condition of our agreement, nor was giving hand to this bounty hunter.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
No.
He's like, yeah, come on, go ahead, make a complaint. Do you really want to do that? No?
Good. It would be unfortunate if I had to leave a garrison here.
Like, really? Just like... Oh, man. I really enjoyed those kinds of things from him. I think that he really did a nice job in creating those moments. Like, those were in the script, sure, but delivering them the way that he did is really what made them. So I know I'm repeating myself a lot by saying, wow, look, think of the way that he delivered this. But it's true, especially when you're talking about voiceover work, it's all about the delivery. So getting off of that and going back to Field of Dreams, I really enjoyed the scene where he first meets Ray Kinsella, and he really has no interest in dealing with him at all. And this exchange illustrates sort of a comedic side without it being really like a true comedic moment. But he is able to like create this humor in this scene that, delivered a different way, would have had a completely different feel to it.
Oh my God.
What?
You're from the 60s.
Well, yeah, actually.
Ow, hey! Back to the 60s.
Wait a
back.
second.
There's no place for you here in the future. Get back while you still can.
You've changed. You know that?
Yes, I suppose I have. How about this? Peace, love, dope. Now get the hell out of here.
Now, obviously, that first part is hilarious. Just the whole peace, love, dope. And I can't do in a voice like his at all. And then the determination of Ray to go back. And now, I mean, he's just had it.
Now, you really pissed me off.
Okay, just hold it. Right there. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to do it this way.
What the hell is that?
It's a gun. What do you think it is?
It's your finger.
No, it's not. It's a gun.
Yeah, let me see it.
Get out of here. I'm not going to show you my gun. Now, look, I'm not going to hurt you. I just need you to come with me for a little while. And what are you doing?
I'm going to beat you with a crowbar until you go away.
Whoa, wait. You can't do that.
There are rules here? Oh, no, there are no rules here.
I just love that whole sequence. I'm going to beat you with a crowbar until you go away. I feel like we've all had that moment in our lives where we're just like, if somebody doesn't get this person away from me, I'm going to beat them. And he's acting this out. But anyway, that sets up another great exchange, and he and Kevin Costner in this movie also just had great. I thought they had great chemistry, but that scene there, the finger gun scene, really kind of sets up this one later, where Terrence Mann is invited to go with the players into the corn.
Why?
I gave an interview.
What interview? What are you talking about?
The one about Ebbets Field, the one that charged you up and sent you all the way to Boston to find me.
You lied to me.
But you were kidnapping me at the time, you big jerk.
Well, you lied to me.
You said your finger was a gun.
First of all, you big jerk. The delivery of that line, and then recalling, hey, you tried to kidnap me with your finger as a gun. The delivery of that line, and again, the connection between these two characters was really great. And I don't think that happens if you don't have as talented a duo as those two were. And sometimes you have talented actors who just don't click, but they clicked in this movie, and I think that really lifted the performance for both of them. So there are a few other lines that I just love. One of them is from The Sandlot, and obviously this is another movie that everybody remembers he was in, but he had such a small role in it. But I think that his presence there, I mean, you could have had any old blind guy who, could have filled that role, but you chose someone who has this large stature and this booming voice. And I think he did that for a reason, and that was, to add gravitas to this scene. And one of my favorite lines from that is just after they meet, they bring the beast back, and they're in the house, and he's got this to say:
You're in trouble, aren't you, son?
Yeah, well, that was my stepdad's ball. I took it without asking. It was signed by Babe Ruth.
George signed this?
George Herman Ruth? Yeah.
I take it back. You're not in trouble. You're dead where you stand. Hold on.
There's just something about that where, he's got this smile on his face too that you can't obviously see while you're listening to this, but it's just like, it's this line that's delivered that's this really, kind of doom and gloom line, but he already has in his head that he's got a solution for this kid, but he's still going to have a little fun with him. There was another one, and this one is, and the name of the character is escaping me, but he was in Hunt for Red October as Admiral, I think it was Admiral Greer was his name. And, he doesn't have a really memorable role in this, but there's this scene here where the torpedoes are zeroing in on the submarine, and he detonates them. And he looks at the person who's there, and he says,
No. You understand, Commander? That torpedo did not self-destruct. You heard it hit the hull, and I was never here. Contact Dallas. Give them the go.
I love how he just is so cool and collected in this. This is they're chasing this Russian nuclear submarine with this commander who wants to defect, and they're crafting this basically bogus story about how this submarine was destroyed, and he's just like, yeah, never happened, guy. And it's just always been a memorable line for me. I think that the first time I saw that movie, I was maybe 10. And that was one of the things that I've always remembered is he, on top of everything else, he kind of like opens up his credentials as he's talking to the commander. And he's just like, I was never here. So yeah, we've talked a little bit too about some other father-son elements that James Earl Jones has been involved in. And one of the ones that I really love is his portrayal of King Jaffe Joffer in Coming to America. And there are a couple of there are a couple of funny lines in this that both happen in the same conversation that I just found to be, again, memorable. Like, these were scene stealing lines.
I am a man who has never tied his own shoes before.
Wrong. You are a prince who has never tied his shoes. Believe me, I tied my own shoes once. It is an overrated experience.
And then we have what is honestly something that I've quoted before, and people usually look at me funny. They don't quite get the reference, but to me, this is one of the the funnier lines in the entire movie, and it's kind of just subtly in there.
It is normal to feel anxiety about meeting your queen.
When I first met your father, I was terrified.
I must admit, I was frightened too.
I was so nervous, I became nauseous. But over the years, I have grown to love your father very much.
So, you see, my son, there is a very fine line between love and nausea.
It's such a great line that's delivered just so flawlessly and so easily. The fun fact about that is those two actors, they played Mufasa and Sarabi in The Lion King. So there's a nice little connection there too. But just, he had this subtle way of delivering humorous lines. You know, he didn't ham it up too much. He just let the comedy be the comedy and just delivered the line the way that it needed to be delivered. And of course, you know, there's also, you know, some other moments, you know, we're still talking about the father-son element. And as we mentioned, Sarabi and Mufasa. Of course, I feel like every parent can relate to this one.
Your son was awake. Before sunrise, he's your son.
So, yeah, there's another one there. So, along those lines of the whole father element, there are a couple of Darth Vader lines that, of course, now having seen all of the movies and all of the context for this, you know, I'm stretching this a little bit. But there are a couple of lines in there when he's talking to Luke and to Leia where it almost feels like Darth Vader's in scolding dad mode. So, first off, from Star Wars, you know, from basically the start of the movie, there's that interaction between him and Princess Leia.
I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away!
Now, that seems like a simple little exchange where he's, you know, angry because he's not getting what he wants. But knowing what we know about these characters now, there's some real, I'm sick of your crap, go to your room energy. Like, she's like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's just like, listen, I just chased you from Scarif all the way to freaking Tatooine. I know exactly what you're doing, so be quiet, go to your room, you're not getting any dessert. And, you know, there's another line in Return the Jedi in that same kind of exchange that we talked about earlier between him and Luke before getting delivered to the Emperor. And there's again that kind of like scolding dad kind of energy to it.
The Emperor has been expecting you.
I know, Father.
So, you have accepted the truth.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
Now, that little line there is just like, listen, we've been over this before. We're not talking about it again. So drop it. And maybe it's just me who's used this tone as a dad, but I kind of, you know, just relate. Now, of course, there's another instance. I feel like this is one of those times when he just decided that he was going to let his hair down and he was going to use his voice as a comic tool. And it was a Sprint commercial of all things.
Ryan is a total hottie McHotterson.
RV, he's amazeballs. He's like the hottest hottie that ever hottied.
He's like a hottie times infinity plus another infinity. And his smile is totes adorbs.
Totes my goats. It's cray cray adorbs.
Totes my goats.
I mean, I don't know what else I can add to that. It's just, it's whoever came up with that commercial and got him to sign off on that is pure genius and deserves a raise. All these years later, I think that was what, 7 years ago or something like that. And I mean, I'm still referencing that Totes My Goats line. So anyway, I know I kind of rambled a little bit here. I'm not by any means a cinema aficionado. I don't know a lot about acting, but I know that James Earl Jones had some of the most meaningful and striking performances using his voice as such a strong instrument that it's going to leave a legacy that's not going to be forgotten for some time. So I'm going to leave you with what I consider to be his best performance, or at least the most memorable one for me. It's one that I'm not going to talk after I play this because, well, I just might be choked up.
Dad, we're pals, right?
Right.
And we'll always be together, right?
Simba, let me tell you something that my father told me. Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
Well, that about does it for this edition of the Maza's Musings podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to me kind of going down memory lane a little bit with some of my favorite roles and my favorite lines and my favorite interpretations of things that James Earl Jones did over the years. I truly believe that he was such a talented and unique figure in entertainment during my formative years and beyond. I also, it may sound a little weird, but I had an uncle who reminded me a lot of James Earl Jones. There was a lot of similarities between the two. They were both, large in stature, had big booming voices and great smiles. So whenever I watched James Earl Jones, I saw shadows of my uncle. And so I think that in a weird way, I had an extra affinity for him because of that. But anyway, I'd love to hear some of the things that you remember from James Earl Jones. What are the roles and the movies and the performances that he had that resonated with you? You can let me know by going to the Maza's Musings podcast on Facebook. You can also go to Maza's Musings Pod on Threads and Instagram. You can send me an email at mazasmusings@gmail.com. You can also go to the website. You can contact me through the website, which is mazasmusings.wordpress.com. You can also find past episodes there, a little bit more about the podcast, and links to our other outlets. Thank you to everybody who has been listening. And thank you if you have left a review or a rating or subscribed or whatever you do through your podcast service. Regardless of what service you're using, when you interact in these ways, you do have impact. When you do rate or review, all of this goes into an algorithm that helps make our podcast more visible to more people. So if you have done that, again, thank you very much. If you have not, please consider doing that. Podcasts are really reliant on word of mouth and also these kinds of interactions to help boost them in the algorithm. Also, every week, if you're listening on Spotify, you have the opportunity through the Spotify app to leave a comment. Occasionally, we'll have polls, and we'd encourage you to take a look and encourage you to contact us that way as well and participate that way. Through Good Pods, you, as I said before, can rate and review individual episodes. So if there's an episode that you feel particularly strongly about, you can rate it individually. And you can also leave comments on those individual episodes, and we'll see them and comment back. So lots of ways to interact. I hope that you continue to interact so that not only do we grow, but we are creating more of a community dynamic here, which is really what I'm going for. So, once again, thank you to everybody who's been listening. I would be very much remiss if I didn't mention that this week my thoughts are with the people who have been affected by or who lost their lives in the 9/11 terrorist attacks. This time of year, obviously, is a very somber one, a very sobering one for a large amount of people in our country. And I hope that we can all take some time to reflect on the freedoms that we have and what we need to do to preserve those. And as always, I hope you have a great weekend and a great week.
Totes my goats.